So welcome to Airtable Off the Record Secrets and Lore. We should have some people coming in from the clubhouse here shortly, but welcome if you're watching live in the Facebook group. This is week 13, so crazy time has just flown by to get this far. So we are a group of Airtable users exploring new ways to use Airtable to optimize our businesses and lives, open to hearing from anyone. So if you want to join the Zoom, just click on the link in the description of this post and I'll let you in. It'll put you in the waiting room, but I'll let you in shortly after that. We're open to hearing from anyone about their experience, good or bad, using Airtable. If you have any secrets you want to share, you can share those, or if you have questions on how to solve something, we can dive into that this week. So we also attempt to promote people coming from any level to ask questions, share ideas, and we also share our own tips and practices to get the most out of Airtable and get involved in the community. So we meet every Wednesday from 7 p.m. Eastern time zone to 8 p.m. Eastern time zone. Recently, that's been going a little bit longer than just the 8 p.m., but we have quite a bit of fun on the live stream here. So what we just went through were some of the Airtable news pieces, such as document relaunching, and I think that was the only big piece of news. But the topic of today is the 12-month predictions for Airtable. So Chris and Devin, I sent both of you guys a link to that so we can go through some of those if we would like. I'll pull it up.
I'm pulling them up now. I had another HOA reach out to me about my system they saw.
Were they from the Airtable community?
No, I don't know. They said someone showed it to them from Twitter because I posted a screenshot from Twitter.
Nice.
They're currently spending $200,000 to buy a system, and they said, "How much would you charge for this?" And I said, $1,500. I said, "For all of it?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, we'll take it." And I said, "Well, hold on. You know, I don't have a process to take I don't have a process to take their money."
You can use my Stripe. We'll split it.
Yeah, I bet I could use your Stripe.
You can use my Stripe.
You're such an animal.
That's a lot of money for an HOA. Jesus. No wonder the fees are.
200,000?
No wonder the fees are nuts.
Yeah. And then I met with my HOA today and showed them what I built, and the management company didn't like it, but the president of the HOA loved it. So we'll see. So if you guys want a quick demo later, I'll show you. I'm really proud of it. I literally threw it together in 6 hours.
I would love to see it. I mean, I saw like the basics of it, but I feel like if your board didn't like it, then you're going to get other people on the internet who are going to want it, and they'll pay you for it.
Yeah. And this is the thing. There are so many simple problems you can build solutions for on Airtable and just sell them all day long. Like, instead of trying to build these massively complex systems for our own people, just build these one-offs and just pop them out. I mean, $1,500 is nothing for these people.
Yeah, and especially for something that solves an existing issue, you can pinpoint that and just build a repeatable system, because like you can duplicate bases and you can duplicate zaps in Zapier very easily. So
yeah. Well, I guess we'll jump into the 12-month predictions. Do we want to read the names or share the screen, or how do you want to do the predictions?
I think we can just go through them as a discussion. I don't know if we want to share the names. I mean, people put their names in there.
So I guess we should say that these predictions were built on the tarot card. No, they weren't. So how this worked was a couple weeks ago, we've been joking around that people needed to come on to who come to the show. They needed to go to this to make predictions in 12 months. What things will be true about Airtable in 12 months? So Ben, you collected about 10 of them?
Yeah, 10 predictions.
So why don't you go ahead? Devin, you can read a couple, but Ben, why don't you go ahead and read us yours if you'd like? You can start with your predictions. Did you put any in here?
Mine are not in the but I didn't use the form that I asked everybody to use. So my prediction,
I too am delinquent in the form use.
Yeah, my prediction is that and I think a lot of this I've learned from talking to people in this group, but the features will start falling down. So enterprise right now they have like 100,000 record limit. I don't know that Pro will get 1,000. I also saw that they publicly released their like enterprise limits, which was kind of news. Like that was like actually visible rather than seeing contact us. So I thought that was interesting, but I think that will fall down to the Pro. The Pro features will fall down to the plus to free. And then the next one with that in mind was, yeah, there you can see it on the screen now. You can see that they actually released that stuff, 100,000 records per base, 1,000 gigabytes. The next one was something that Enterprise doesn't quite have yet, is the ability to have the editable share views. But I guess I predict that in a year, they'll have that. So then maybe the next year we'll have that. I hope that falls down.
Well, I'll read up. Some people suggest put some others in here, so I guess we'll just read out a couple of them. But like you said, we don't want to shame anyone. So someone named Felicity. We wish you could hide the name column, Ben. But someone named Felicity said they're looking for end user interface. So I think what they're saying here is we're going to have some type of end user interface within 12 months. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? I think probably something a little bit prettier than the form view. But anybody have a feelings on end user interface in the next 12 months? How many people think that Felicity is right? Like an updated end user interface.
I don't see that coming in the next 12 months because I think that's a pretty big jump for Airtable. I would love to see it in the next 12 months. I just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Chuck Beckett has one in here. Sorry, Chuck, you can do your own. So Chuck, come off of mute if you can, because our lip reading has just gone downhill. Like the whole pandemic, I've just become so bad at it. He's still trying to talk. We're still not getting you, Chuck.
You might have to go into your audio settings on Zoom.
Take your time, Chuck. Don't worry about it. We'll come right back to
Sorry,
you.
I just had to get my headphone on. How about now?
He's back. You're good.
Perfect.
We can hear you, Chuck. You're live.
Okay. The thing that hit us right off the bat, I work as a volunteer at a Bloomington community radio station in Benstown. And we wanted to replace our traffic system, which is a broadcast application that in the broadcasting industry and in radio and in TV, there needs to be a way of managing what you put on the air and your program logs, and you want to tie that into your programs. And for commercial companies, they also want to tie in their adverts. It's a big thing for them. And so there's a little bit of advertising scheduling. That thing costs our little community radio station about $1,300 a year. And we could actually, with Airtable scripting, we could replace all those parts of this commercial application that's used by most of the industry. But the one thing we couldn't do anything with is we needed a great way to print out our program logs. And I can't imagine, you look at the complaints about Page Designer about, its serious shortcomings. I can't imagine that they're not going to do something about this sooner or later. It's going to hobble them in industry because, most apps of this nature that are used in enterprise, of course, the knowledge workers are writing reports right, left, and center. And the Page Designer is like I think you were talking about. It's a tinker toy. So I hope that they fix that.
So this is one like I don't know if they're going to fix, because isn't there that paid app that is essentially a Page Designer like Pro that you pay for?
It's in the Pro plan.
No. Like I know Page Designer, but when they released apps as apps and not blocks, or maybe it was just slightly before that, didn't they release like a partnership with an app that you would pay extra for, like a third party? I forget who it was. Maybe Chris, you guys know.
I'm pulling it up now to see if there's anything in here for pages or apps.
It's
I've got your screen up. Can you think of some of the keywords? What am I irritated?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
From my experience,
it's basically it's like one of the
Formido? No, that's a chat box. Although that's kind of cool.
Okay.
I think the best integration there
It
is
was
using Zapier to create a like Google Doc from a template to create those reports and have them easily be exported. Yeah.
The way we got around it is we just copy pasted into an Access database. We used Access basically as a report package because it's good with that. You know, its shortcomings didn't really have a problem for us, but it would be great if they could integrate one of the you know, something from Jaspersoft, for example. They have an open source report server, and I think there's a lot of people in the community that would pay big bucks to get decent reports.
Yeah.
mm,
I wonder what the enterprise users have found as a solution to that, because I think Airtable's already created their like version of it and they're fine with that. Some like their page design is not that great and their form is not that great, but like people really advanced are using like the onto air forms, and people really advanced are using like these extensions like mini.
I've done some nice stuff on Page Designer. So this is a class I'm designing with IBM, and they needed to have the stuff exported out. I mean, Page Designer isn't, I think, the sexiest thing, but it does the job. I think the problem people have with Page Designer isn't Page Designer. It's they don't know how to be creative. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people just don't know how to make something look nice, you know? And it's not that, you know, yeah, Page Designer is clunky, and I did mean it as like a tinker toy, but compared to like, I think it was Chuck that mentioned like Oracle. I mean,
Yeah.
Oracle had some amazing report designers. I mean, I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember Crystal Reports, but Crystal Reports was like the software to go to. You could link to any database and make stuff just look amazing. It's just not there.
I think I'm
Just
talking
not
about
there.
FormStack.
Form stack. Let me see if I can find
I
it.
think this is what I'm remembering.
Form stack documents, auto-populated documents with your records.
That looks promising.
They got a video, so you know they're serious about selling it.
This was one of the original ones, I think. And it was like there was some. I mean, I didn't look into it much, but it seemed like it was like a Page Designer Pro.
Oh yeah, they've got invoice in here, rental agreement.
So there's two areas of shortcomings for me in Page Designer. And Chris, you picked on one of them, and it's absolutely true that, you know, a lot of this is you just need to learn to use Page Designer to make pleasing reports, and you're right there. But there's some limitations, like I would like to be able to have a 20-page report come out, and Page Designer will not do that for you.
Yeah.
It will though. I have a video on how to make it multiple pages.
I'm gonna have to go back and read that video. Basically, I'd like to have a, you know, we'd have like, you know, 300 or 400 records, and I'd like them to go out over about a 15-page, what we call program log in the industry. It's what you sit in front of the DJ in the air room, and it tells him when to do station breaks, what's coming up, and when to read a PSA or an announcement. So you have this video. Boy, could you put the URL in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in there on how to make it multiple pages.
You'd be my hero, Chris.
I think the trick there for that kind of a thing is like printing out a log. If you had like all of your log for one night, if you only have to print it out one night, then you link everything that is in the log to one day, and then pull the day record in there. Use lookups to create your whole log. That's how I would see that being created, but I'll send both those videos in here.
That's exactly the way we do it. I mean, that's what we have. We have linked records. We do 1 day's worth of program logs. Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I was going to show you guys the other thing I've done in Form Designer is all my contracts for customers that I do work on, whether it's media work or consulting work. I do all my contracts through Page Designer, and they look amazing. So, you know, I think there's a lot people could do, but again, it always comes back to like, a lot of people just don't want to spend the time to use Airtable. You know, they're like, oh, you can do anything, so I'm going to do nothing.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
There's that video. Chuck, you're muted. There's that video to use on multiple.
Thank you very much. I will go look back and look at that, because I really hate having to do an integration, and you know, we're perfectly capable of doing that. Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think Page Designer, I think the biggest, yeah, so that's how you do it. And I give a little tutorial on how to properly size it, everything, do it multiple pages. But the biggest limitation that I have with Page Designer is it's not easy to automate the export of it. You have to manually, for me.
That is huge.
Yeah. Print it, save it as a PDF just before printing it, cancel the print, unless there's a better method to save it.
Yeah, I think like for me, I mean, I'm not hopeful that Page Designer is going to change, simply because there is that paid like version, which was part of like the first paid apps. And I would probably guess that there might even be some kind of like contract in place, like for exclusivity with that provider, because they were like one of the founding, call them the founding paid app providers. But I mean, I'm right there with you on the PDF thing. But I think even if that was easier, one of the things that drives me insane is that you can't really lock it to a view. So, you know, I have the beta. Well, I guess you don't even need the, or do you need the beta for that? Like when you share the link to the Page Designer, I think you might need a beta for that. Anyways, when I have people doing it, like who work in the farm, like I have to instruct them to, you know, use a certain view, and you know, and or keep a certain view on the top of a given table, and it just gets really complicated. It's like, because, you know, we're not always dealing with the same people. There's new folks coming in and out, and training can be all over the place. It's like, why can't I just lock this specific page to this specific view, because that's where I want the data to come from.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Again,
for example,
I think views need to be permission based. I'm glad we got folders. I'm not gonna diss that, but the fact that we just have personal or all, it's like there's no middle ground. So, you know, there needs to be like a grouping. So as you've got 5 people on a team, they need to be given not just roles, but like teams. And a team has access to certain sets of views. And then within those views, they have certain. So again, like old school Linux privileges, right? You know, you want read, write, execute, read, write. Sorry, Chuck. Chuck is just dying. I thought Chuck's listening to me talk about old school stuff. But like, even when you look at old school permissions, like you have permissions to like the actual thing, and then to the group, and then to the, you know, the whole record set. But man, I'm a young 52. I'm gonna just say that right now. I'm a young 52.
Well, that shocks me.
I think the logical way to go is so that you can limit who can see anything in a workspace. You can limit the bases, like who can see which base, and then they kind of skipped over table. So I think like,
but you could get rid of all of that, Ben. Forget the table, forget the record, forget all of it. If you just made the view on the place where the permissions start, you wouldn't have to worry about the rest of it, because no one can even get to see anything unless they've been given a view group. Then you work on what they can see in the view, then in the record.
But then Airtable is going to charge like $10 per view per month per user.
And so this is actually, all of this is kind of leading into like my prediction, which I didn't really put on the form, but I think it's both a prediction and a hope. I hope that Airtable starts to clean up the business model and the business use. So like, I think views, the folder view things were a good step, but like the other things are, it's pricing and something else here. Hang on. Pricing and the workspace folder thing. Like, I think in order for this to really take off, and I think we talk about this a lot, like, you know, they're trying to get an enterprise. Well, my opinion is that you need, you know, ambassadors to get it in an enterprise. And I think, you know, part of this is just organization, right? Like, my base is chaotic as hell. And until view folders came in, like, there was really no way of saving it. Like, So I think they really need to focus on, more logical pricing. Like, why do we pay per workspace? Like, if my buddy has a license and I have a license, every other software company that I can think of, like, you don't need to pay extra to collaborate with your friend. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
The pricing model is nuts because, to your point, I'm already paying for Pro, and let's pretend you're paying for Pro. And the way it works right now is if I invite you to me, I have to pay again.
Yeah, like when Ben and I were doing the Instagram thing last week, we had to do it on the free one, even though we both pay. We're both paid users. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So I think that needs to get solved ASAP. I think the view.
No, it's like licensing. It's licensing bukkake. Everybody's getting shot on.
Yeah, and so I think, like, views are a good step. Pricing needs to come soon, and then I think things around improving the ability to organize and manage the system in a workplace is key. And I think that gets into permissions. It gets into folders and just simple, like, organizational things. One of the things I struggle with is, like, I've got 400 and some columns in a table, right? And I'm trying to, like, get to a point where I can reorder these into a logical flow, and I find it so annoying to reorder. Like, it's very, I don't know if you guys have anything that large. Like, I find myself, I have a view now that I've called the cleanup view, which is like my hope to get that one looking good. And what I do is I have 2 placeholder columns, and I'll place those beside sections that I want to move things to, and then move things in between them, and then they move on the main view. But so I would like to actually search my views, type in something, and then be able to, like, group them. Or not the views, but the columns, rather. Search the columns, type in something, and then there's like 6 that are similarly named, and group those together as a bundle.
I was going to say, Devin, something I've done, because I had that same problem, was I ended up using emojis so that if you do a find a field, you can find all the fields with a specific type emoji.
Chris,
and that way you can see.
Because nobody's going to be able to see this.
Well, I can't, because I'm trying to show you the whole screen out.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to show the whole screen. I actually was just showing. Actually, this is actually I made the screen really small. This is not me trying to, like, flex on the monitor. This is literally like, this is the Airtable app, super small. Yeah, this is Control Plus. But what I was saying was how I did that when I had to clean up mine was I put a specific emoji against all the groups of columns, Devin, like you were saying, so that when I search for them, I could make the screen real small like this and then move them around because I could just look for that image. Because I know what you're talking about, Devin. I had to build a whole, like, routine just to figure out all the different columns.
Well, see, what happens with what I'm doing is we've added on various sections, and a lot of this is feeding through, like, 2 main tables, and there's a column per thing we're doing, at least per product type, and sometimes per
so how many columns?
How
many columns did you say you had? How many
over
columns?
450. I continually try and over 450. I continually try and narrow it down.
So is marijuana legal where you live? Because with 450 columns, I would need to be high.
It most certainly is legal. I can go to the store and get it, and, like, there's a dime a dozen.
Because I don't know if I could do 450 columns. And this is the thing, is you have to, with the columns, each of those columns become part of a bigger process. That's what I'm hearing you saying. So, like, this group of columns is for this process.
Oh, yeah.
And again, if you can't get in a mass rename fields, which again, you probably could with a script to the back end, you probably could do something like this, but that still doesn't handle, like, these columns belong to this process. So, the ERD or the an relationship diagram.
See, what happened to me is what happened to me is we added in 2 more products. Right. So we added in 2 more products. So then every single one of those groups that had previously had 6 now has 8, except when I added them in, since views are all over the place, like I was adding columns to the end and not adding them within the groups. So now there's, like, orphan columns all over the place that make the process of consolidating all these columns lower, because I'm going to brush up on 500 again pretty soon, like, a much more difficult process. And so, like,
is 500 the max number of?
500 is the max, and 500 is the max on enterprise. Because when this first happened, I went to I had an enterprise, like, intro call, and I was like, hey, I really don't need enterprise, but, like, is this something that can get solved? Like, and then they were like, yeah, it's going to be like this many thousands. I was like, yeah, we're definitely not doing that. But it wasn't even a problem that could be solved in enterprise.
The problem that I see in Airtable and columns is that, since it's not a full relational database, you've got to do a lot of lookups and other things where in a regular database, you just do some left joins.
Don't scare the kids, Chuck. Don't scare the kids.
That's exactly what I'm running into. I have a lot of this table feeds from a lot of places and then feeds back up to other places to then summarize stuff. So we have things that go up here that go into a week table that summarize for the weekly average and then have to get bounced back down to run the math.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just the nature of the beast, I suppose. I wrote a recurring dates base, and it had 178 columns of some really hairy date calculations. And what we did is we used, I think table sync can be a great help. We use that to allow people to pick up on the essential data and leave behind the 178 columns worth of calculations. And the other thing we did a lot with table sync is we set up a volunteer database, and you could think of this as a customer base or an employee base with a lot of stuff in it for managing volunteer involvement. But then we'd sync just the list of volunteers and their email addresses into all sorts of other bases. And that was really helpful. But the infrastructure that you guys are talking about, I agree, doesn't seem to exist to make it easier to do that stuff. It'd be really great to be able to sort. The emoji sorting is really cool. And there should be some better ways that you can, create a temporary view that shows you the results of your table search.
Yeah, well, the emoji was just a hack because I was to the point where I needed but this was also before I created what I call template base. And Ben and I have talked about this on the show. I have a default table that every other table gets modeled after, which has the default views, default everything in it. And then I also have a default base that basically the default tables live in. So once I got a good system going, they all kind of went the same way.
I was thinking
we want to go.
I totally agree with you. I have that same sort of template base. I never start from scratch. It has the fields that I think every base should have. I'd love sometime, we ought to compare bases, get some ideas, because it helps, right?
Yeah.
Whose base is bigger?
My template base is actually built. Let's not go there. My template base is actually built on Taro. So this is my template table. So it's got the best configuration of every view, and then the actual best naming field, so that I can always query if I'm doing an external call, and then kind of the best practices for every field type. So regardless of what, and then the best practices in linking. Now it might seem dumb to you guys, but this is the model which every table then gets built on, because every table has a name, a summary, a detail. It's always got at least 2 different types of dates. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. I can't agree more. And I love what you've done with the emojis and the titling, because that's shit that you do every time you create a base, every time you get a new user. What are you going to do? It's okay, I'm going to start from 25% in instead of 0% in. That's gold.
Yeah. My emoji game is strong. I tell people the most powerful thing you can do if you're a Mac is learn Control Command Spacebar. Control is the emoji shortcut. That's save your life.
Have you ever had any problems when trying to integrate those tables?
Yep. I actually have. There are some external programs that will not read the emojis, so I've had to actually remove emojis from some tables and things because some programs can't see the Unicode set. So emojis can get you in trouble, just if you text the wrong emoji to your girlfriend and she's in a bad mood. It can happen in Airtable too.
I want to reel us back in and go through some more of these predictions that we had.
Okay.
So I think did we leave off on the second one that was talking about the page designer, or did we make it to the
Yep. We were on Chuck's. We'd gone through Felicity and Chuck. So we're done that. We've got 3 through 10 left, and we can skip mine because mine's the same stuff I say all the time on the show. I just did it because we agreed to, and apparently I'm the only one who listens to us. Can't imagine dating Devin and Ben.
All right, so the third one is with the last set of updates, they have done a really great job in terms of functionality. I think they can just keep improving and adding to what they did. They gave us some biggies such as sync, automations, custom apps. The only big thing left to do would be finding a way to increase record numbers, really. So another thing for kind of the waterfall of those features from Enterprise down to Pro, hopefully. Although they just released that information publicly.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, what's crazy about this is everybody hears sync and gets excited. Then they learn that sync actually means does not mean bidirectional. And then they basically need to get the little blue pill to get the excitement back, because without bidirectional sync, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we got number 4. This is from Jan. Thank you, Jan, for submitting this. Airtable API will stay exactly the same for better or for worse. Okay, Jan, I don't know if you're trying to just troll us or what you're doing, but I kind of agree with you, Jan, whoever Jan is. So we got Jan.
I think this is the same.
Another Jan. Another Jan? Okay. I predict the API won't have a single Okay, so Jan is literally trolling us. Okay, so Jan, thank you for trolling us. Touchscreen features, more expensive, new entry-level pay plan. I could see this. I mean, we looked at the Airtable plans. Airtable. You know what I hate about Airtable is you can't get to the main site if you're logged in. Does anybody else feel like you're like being forced into looking at the world through a schism? Yeah, I totally see. First off, there will be a cheaper plan in between here and buy at some point. All right.
What about
is that good for you?
I was gonna say, just what about the cheaper, like having collaborators on a pro plan? Making do you think that they were insinuating that a cheaper plan for the pro plan?
She might be, but again, it's so nebulous.
Honestly, if you change the pricing method to be license-based instead of workspace-based, you would be reducing the cost to the end consumer.
You'd also be cutting their revenue by a lot.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know, because I feel like you'd actually get more people signed up.
Yeah.
Well,
I just always go back to somewhere there's an accountant who's figured this out and they're staying on this method because the accountant said don't.
I wonder how the enterprise pricing works, because they get it's $60 per user per month, but like they have unlimited workspaces. So it's not like, I guess this is more of a question, but it's not like they have a limited amount of workspaces. Do they still get charged with workspace? Oh, there we go.
I wish they had chat. We could troll them live on air. Okay.
I'm honestly surprised nobody has been joining us to spy on our conversations and influence
because
the
Ben shares them to YouTube so they can watch later.
When they can just watch from the Facebook group too, because
they can just watch them.
No,
but
right, so
they would ever give us concurrent licensing.
Oh, Chuck, what are you trying to? You're just scaring people at this point. You're just stunty showing your age and scaring people. Okay, Muhammad is here. I hope I spelled that. It's not Muhammad. I don't know if I spelled Mahmoud. Muhammad. Okay. Mr. Habib, we'll just call him that. So unlimited records per base. I don't think that's going to happen by the end of the year. But listen, if he's right, more power to him. Include JSON object. Now that would actually be interesting. As a field type, a JSON field type would be sexy AF. And then increase the API rate. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys deal with the Google Maps caching API, but that thing, when working on Airtable, is slow. Syncing 500 addresses just takes hours.
I think those would all be nice to have. I don't know that unlimited records will ever come.
Remember, these are things we think will happen in the next 12 months. Signature capture. I don't know what that means.
Like in a form to make a legally binding signature, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
that would be big.
Why would Airtable add it though?
You could maybe do a DocuSign integration, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking.
With the forms.
I think that would be another nice thing.
And then the last one we've got here is Ashley Schuler. Thank you, Ashley, for submitting this. Nice to have you on the show today. We're autonomously. Zapier plus IGTV integrations. Well, this is interesting. So she's saying that Instagram TV will be part of Airtable by the end of the year. I would love Zapier to auto. So maybe this she means is actually is an update to Zapier because it's not something that Airtable could do. I don't think she means that.
Also, she's probably going to run out of her storage limit pretty fast pulling videos in there using Airtable video storage.
Yeah. But with the box integration, I'll be honest with you, I watched that demo by our friend Aaron. It kind of made me want to switch from Dropbox to Box, but we'll see.
What sort of
that's it.
Now the big
box integration are you talking about, Chris?
In Airtable now, you can basically come in here and create a new sync to box. So when you go to create a new table,
crap, I missed that. That's big for us.
That was really recent.
Yeah. So you can sync from calendar in real time, sync from Jira, sync from another Airtable base. And what was really cool on Aaron's show was I sent him a live link to one of my base tables so he could, which totally made me believe there's also a model for people who build really cool bases who just want to sell tables and table access. So if you just want to buy like a table with every tarot card and tarot card definition, you could just sell that, and people who could build their own whole systems around it. So again, I thought it was a really kind of interesting thing, but this box thing, Chuck, I thought was huge.
Oh yeah, we do everything with Box. We all the pre-recorded shows we do, all our PSAs, all the documents we share. That's great. Thanks. I somehow missed that.
Well, you don't come to off the record Airtable secrets and lore. That was a secret. It was lore, then it was a secret. Now it's public. This is what you're missing by not being on the show. All right. So my predictions, I say in 12 months, record counts doubled across the board. Space limits doubled across the board. Bidirectional sync implemented. An entire Airtable universe overhaul. So I'm predicting in the next 12 months, Airtable universe gets an overhaul. I don't know what I mean by that, but I have a feeling they're going to do something with it as profound as they did with apps. Plus, I think there'll be new investment bringing the valuation at $10 billion by March 2022. Within 24 months, Howie's going to move into a new role and they'll have a new CEO hoping to go public. And if they don't go public, within 36 months, acquired by either Microsoft or Salesforce. Those are my predictions.
Very interesting. And you can't tell us what you think an overhaul will involve.
No, I just think they're going to do something with Universe because Universe is kind of the stepchild right now. Let's be honest. Universe, for those of you who don't know what Airtable Universe is, Airtable Universe is this, great, I don't want to call it a marketplace because it's not, but it's because they have a marketplace, but it's this great template repository where people who have all, if you're looking to build a mouse colony, we've got a base for you if you need a mouse colony, right? If you're looking for every Star Trek ever, there's something for that, right? So, but the problem with this is it's almost like a hobby base, right? It's like a lot of the stuff is interesting, but for fan fiction, right? This is, but like what this needs to be is someplace where you can come in here and you can say, I'm going to build something. And I'm like the system I did, right? So this is a system I did a year ago, got written up in the New York Times. It's still the #1 downloaded thing. It's this COVID base that I built so that people could come in here and build kind of like a community space where people could buy or help out two people in a community. So neighborhood base of something. But again, people should be able to sell that. You know what I mean? Don't you agree with me, Ben?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that would be coming to Universe. So the payment model to incentivize people to like put bases actually worth something, or like worth promoting to sell. Like there's some things in here that are really good that give a lot of free value. Like that one that you just shared. That one is amazing, but for people looking to monetize and get more out of their Airtable experience, I think that's part of it, as well as we've also talked about the like having the Airtable experts or Airtable for hire. I think that could come into Universe pretty well.
So you'd see a licensing model here. That would make a lot of sense to me. Some way so that you could buy the base and not share it with other people.
I mean, Chuck, that's the dream, right? The dream is I'd sell this base for $100 and then Airtable charges licenses for it. Not like they currently build it, but just like actual licenses to use anything in their Airtable store. Or you just buy a suite license and you can download, you could have a whole company's worth of apps that you just buy and shop for anyone in your department. And you're not paying this crazy thing I have now. Because basically they're charging you like a development model now. This model is you would just pay concurrent licensing, like you were saying, Chuck.
This is a beautiful show and tell, but there's no easy way for anyone to monetize this.
I think this actually gets interesting too in the enterprise model is like not everybody's going to be a developer, right? You're going to have users of these things, right? So you can create some easily accessible use cases that are a bit more buttoned up and maybe like you said before, have some support, and that's going to be important.
This show and tell stuff, I mean, some of these bases, like you say, they're hobbyists. They're people who are passionate about something, but there's a variety of quality in what they put out there. And if they could charge for it, and if Airtable could ensure that the developers got the money, that would incent people, like you say, to come up with much better tables, much better bases.
I actually do 90% of my videos in one of these bases.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
The sales CRM.
Really?
So if you search sales CRM, it should be orange. Yep.
This one?
I believe that.
Oh, have you ever wrote Van to thank Van?
I didn't even know that you could do that, to be honest.
Yeah, you can actually come in here and follow me. I've got like 60 people following me on Universe. I don't know why. Like, what do they see? And I just want one more thing, Ben. You're following Van. Not only did Van do sales CRM, but Van did Black Mirror. Okay, I'm just saying your entire YouTube channel is based on a lie.
I don't know if it was actually that one because should be one that's called sales CRM that I use.
That's called sales CRM. It's not this one.
Well, it's just called sales CRM. Let's see what the.
Oh, it's not sales CRM dashboard. I see what you're saying.
Actually, it might be. He might have added more to it because I think it only came with 4 tables.
Yeah, you can update your Universe stuff. And I think that's the other thing is that as a developer, I can update some of my things that are in Universe. I have a couple things in Universe right now. I think I've got, I've also got your COVID financial tracker. So again, I built this for people who were having to deal with lots of programs. So basically it helps people deal with their subscriptions. Like if you've got a lot of bills going out, it can do everything from plan to get you government support for COVID to applying for PPP to filing bankruptcy. Like I wanted to build something at the beginning of the pandemic so people could, we should cover the financial tracker on one of our shows, Ben. I think people would like that.
We should. That would be good.
All right.
So I use a different base. I just found this out. It's not W. Van Hall's. So I use this sales CRM template. And is this his? I think it's from the templates.
I think it's an Airtable one. It's not, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the one that I used. I've just found has these 4 good tables and stock data in here. So that's why I use this one.
Okay.
But for all my formula tutorials, any of those page designer tutorials, automation tutorials, they all come out of there.
Okay. I was wondering, like, do you do that every time? But I don't know. All right. That's it. You want a quick overview of my HOA? Or are we out of time? We'll do it next week.
I would love to do the HOA overview, and I can cut it out and make it 2 videos.
Okay. Chuck, you want to see my latest gem?
Love to.
All right.
All right. So we're going to, if you want to introduce it, you can introduce it.
Just introduce it. Okay. So you know me, I'm always making Airtable bases, everything from occult tarot to something to run your life to something to save the neighborhood from COVID. But recently I had a challenge with the HOA where I reached out to them and said, hey guys, and for those of you who don't know, on Twitter, a lot of people are like, what's an HOA? So here in America, we have micro governments of people who have police fetishes. And these people in their micro governments with their police fetishes like to charge you money to then do permission with the property you own. Welcome to America. New Prince album coming out soon if you're hearing this. So seriously, there is a new Prince album coming out. So I thought to myself, wait a minute. So can I see the status of my HOA request? We don't have a way to do that. well, I sent you an email and filled out this form because you have to fill out a paper form, tie it to a dove, throw a rock across the fence, and hope Barney Rubble picks it up. So they're like, well, we'll check on, oh yeah, we found your email. It was sent to this person on the board who approves the request. So I contact that person. Yeah, I'm getting to it, get to it. So long story short, I went and I printed all 600 pages of the HOA and everything they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Then I said to myself, half these things in their PDF format weren't even created when they're searchable. Some of them go back to the 70s. So I then used an AI program to scan them all, index them, and turn them into individual searchable documents because I wanted to find a loophole. And I found out they only have 20 days to deny or it's instantly approved. So I thought to myself, how many other little loopholes are there out in the world? So this led me down this little rabbit hole about 3 months ago where I thought to myself, how much power does the HOA really have? So what I did was I started out, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now, and they run the entire HOA through a Facebook group. Again, a Facebook group. So if you have a request, and there's me thanking them for meeting with me today. So, and there's the rules for the park. There are more rules to go into the park than there are to drive through the neighborhood. You literally can speed through the neighborhood and kill children, but you'll get in trouble if you talk about politics at the park. So again, for those of you watching the show, there's a more, look at this. It's nuts. And who needs to make the rules 3-dimensionals? Like what creep? Like, okay, we need okay, I'm not even gonna go there. It's just crazy. So the way the HOA works is you send emails to these people and they do this thing and they disseminate all this information through here. So what I said was, no. This needs to be simple for anyone to find. The rules need to be simple. So I took the documents and I put them in an Airtable and built out an entire base and then put a front end on it. So now if you have a question, you come in here, you have a question about what do you need to do to have your pool done? Like you want to have your pool updated. You can just type in the word pool, bring it up. It links to the original document, which has been scanned and read with AI. You can download it and then get information. So that's just like a really dumb example. But then I thought, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to go a little bit further. So maybe I want to know about real-time flood updates because we get flooded all the time. So I went ahead and started linking in all these county sites that tie directly to our neighborhood. Everything from power, because in Texas we have power outages. But long story short, I went and built this whole system so that people come in here. I created charts and graphs. A lot of people want to protest their property taxes. So I built entire processes to help people explain how do you protest your property taxes? What do you have to do? So pretty cool site, pretty simple. But then I added a chat feature that integrated to their Facebook group. So now if you're on the new site for the website, you can come in here and ask questions either from Facebook or from here, and they go to the HOA management, right? So far you all are getting this. This is all front end stuff, nothing really overwhelming. But then I went ahead and put a membership model on it. So if you actually live in the neighborhood, you can log into the system. I'll log out so you guys can see the login work. And this is new since last week when I showed you guys the first version of this. The membership portal now allows me to log in and get to the actual HOA section, which comes in here and allows you to submit an issue. So we've got a whole issue tracking system. You have a billing question, a constable or a police non-urgent report, neighbor versus neighbor help. Then I integrated into a real-time lookup of the entire neighborhood's address system. So you can be anonymous. You just put in your address you're looking for, the date you need help, what you need for, but we'll get into all the issue stuff in a minute. And then I created a section where any neighbor can come in and find a partner. So whether it's the police or who handles our water, but more importantly, all those documents, all 600 pages of those documents have now been transcribed, and everything from the bylaws to our meeting minutes are searchable for anyone to download who's a member. This allows us to combine these documents with the FAQs and actually empower the neighborhood. Plus, as a neighbor, you can start to keep track of if you submit something, what happens. So what does it look like if you submit something? Glad you asked. So on the backside of all this, we have the dashboard. So the dashboard is keeping track of real-time addresses of everyone in the neighborhood, all the open requests in the neighborhood. You can even come in here and say, show me all the requests for this house, and then see the open requests. Right? That's what you want. I'm a neighbor. I want to see. Plus, I can also see all the other volunteers in the neighborhood. You can scroll a little bit further down, see the open issues, by type. Right now, we have no visibility as neighbors if the neighborhood's going to hell or not. We can see how much stuff is approved, denied, appealed. When schools, we have these big signs that people go out all over the neighborhood 4 times a year and use these big plastic letters like it's 1972 to say when things are going to open and close. So I built a whole kind of dashboard systems, and then also link to the portal where you pay your bill and where you request stuff. So this is like the management portal for the management company. But then I created all these great views. So just like every system I have, the whole system is based on FAQs because that's what most people want to search for. And we want to be able to find FAQs and put them up. And using the new view system, I have views for the management company, views for the board, and public views. But everything in the system, when you request something, whether it's a dog attack or to use the pavilion, that's called an event. So all the event records are here, and they all have event types. And you anonymously do this by saying, this is my address, I want to use the park. This is my address, I have a constable report. This is the address of the management company. We got a board of directors meeting. But what that allowed us to do is publish the neighborhood events to a calendar that anyone can access. So if you want to see when the meetings are coming up, you can do that. Also allowed us to publish park reservations. So you can come in here and see there's a park reservation that's been approved for July 3rd. Someone wants to come in here. They've got a park reservation. It's a 30th family reunion, annual gathering. It's been approved. They've got a whole approval process built in. But here's another one. Yellow means not approved. This is someone holding a Klein against mask public rally. We don't want people who are saying no to public masks. So we're to decline that. It's a little political in this, in my base too, you might notice. But then we've got all the organizations. Again, each organization is tied to an event and an FAQ. We've got people, whether it be the board members or partners that we work with. All the documents that I told you about are in here now. Our volunteers, so everybody in the neighborhood who signed up and said they can help one of our neighbors if they have a problem, because you can also say, I need help, I need money, food, assistance, what their skills are. So how many people with caregiver skills versus lawn skills. We have a lot of teenagers looking for work, any type of equipment. So we also have a neighborhood that wants to borrow things like weed whackers and saws and medical stuff. So people can donate and say, this is what we have. And then it all sits on top of the address database itself. So all that's kind of cool. It's all there, fun stuff, for you to look at. I'll, go through it up here too. I think it's everything I just showed you.
So can everybody see everybody else's requests or issues?
No. So no, the only thing people can see is the FAQ. That's the public. Like anyone can log in and see our neighborhood FAQ right now. You need a login to get to the HOA section where you can actually see the documents. And in there, if you have an open issue, you will see your open issues, just yours. But the views that I showed you earlier, these are basically these views. And so the apps are broken up by the different, do you want the management dashboard, the HOA, or the public dashboard? Because you can embed the public, I found out you can embed these dashboard widgets onto a website just by asking Airtable to give you the embed code.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool. I mean, the system is slick. So demoed it today. They loved it. They were like, we're spending $200,000 for the other thing that doesn't do half of this. And they're like, well, what about emails? And again, I didn't even show you the forms, like the disaster prep form, the park reservation form. I want to change something in my yard form. And it's all basically, I took every rule and says, well, if you don't have this, you can't go further with the form. So again, I said to them, if you put this in place, I promise you'll cut your emails by 70% in the first 6 months. 70%, I can guarantee it. They're like, okay, let's just do it.
So just want to pick up on something you said there. Are you sharing the actual entire dashboard or just the apps within it?
So so the entire dashboard, like the management dashboard, they can see because that's their view, right? So they can get to this read-only view of it. The actual individual apps, like for the public that are shared over on the Pori site, those you can actually ask Airtable and they would send you the embed code and you just put it in.
I just wasn't sure if you could actually embed the entire dashboard. I was like,
no, because I would want to design it and do that, but you can't do that yet. So the closest thing you come is design it for review and then allow people to see it in read only.
Devin, did you run into any issues? I thought you were talking about the embed the apps and it was like something about you could click in and see the data.
So all the apps I've used, well, I don't know if it counts for a page designer or something, but like for a pivot table or for a chart app, you can basically, there's a button on the top right or bottom right corner or something where it says show data, and it opens up your base wide.
Yeah, so it kind of exposes you. And I mean, the other thing that's really great is, when we come in here and do issues, we do have this park reservation system. And again, people want to reserve there, but it takes weeks. So by the time your event is over, you're still waiting for approval, right? So what I did was I have all these great little intricate forms in here so that people can come in and do the things they need to do within the neighborhood and then follow up on those things. I just think, why are we supporting these organizations? I mean, I spend $700 a year to live in a neighborhood where I have to wait for Becky with a pterodactyl to approve a form I had to send in a fax machine. No, that's not happening.
I've not had direct experience with an HOA, but I lived in Orange County over the summer, and there were you had to fill out a form for anything, to request to go to the pool, or to request to drive on the street. You had to fill out a form for anything. So I think this is far advanced than most HOAs have.
Absolutely. A lot of HOAs have it in the deed to your condo that you need to follow their directions.
But they don't make them transparent. And what I found, Chuck, is if you read your deed restrictions, they have things in there they have to provide you. They have to make it easy, right? So I took this stuff. I even took it to a lawyer and said, what does easy mean? He says, whatever you make it. And I said, okay, then I'll make it easy. They'll have to use my system.
I mean, in one place, when I was living in Orange County, California, when you wanted, they came around and told you that the railing in the front of your house, at the balcony railing, the paint was peeling. And I said, okay, I'll fix that. And they said, by the way, be sure you use our approved colors. And they told me that I could go to one store and buy one of 3 colors. It's that crazy. So to have some sort of system that breaks up the logjam would be helpful.
Yep.
I'm excited to see where this niche Airtable project can take us.
I think we could probably fund the show and move us into a studio if I play my cards right. Because the other thing is, it doesn't just have to be an HOA. I mean, any community could use this to manage community needs. Right? You just literally, public addresses, addresses for communities are public record, right? I got all the addresses from a local site, and I cross-referenced it with other data about the houses, like the history of taxes. We could even allow, to me, I should be able to flag a homeowner and say, your taxes are probably going to go up next year. File an appeal now. There's so many things you could do for a community with access to this data. So a storm's coming, text everybody and say, sign up to the stream sensors, because we have stream sensors right near our house, right? So we can see how high the stream is coming, right? But again, the guy was like, some people don't even use email. And I'm like, some people eat dirt, but that doesn't mean McDonald's is going to make a dirt Whopper, right? If you always create solutions for these marginalized edges, that society will never move forward. Some people don't use email. Well, what the heck? Sorry, I get so ranty.
This is great.
That's my system. I'm sticking to it.
Oh my God.
Some people don't use email.
Reserved.
Now,
tell us what you really feel.
Some people don't use email now, but give it another 10, 20 years. That won't be a thing at all.
Yeah, they'll just skip right over it.
Well, basically, I'm just suggesting that people who don't will die off. But
I see what you're saying. Oh, sorry, yeah, that was harsh.
I saw Slack enabled you to message anyone at any company now, didn't they? So
really,
so I use Slack for anything not external.
Oh yeah, I did see this. People lost their privacy minds over it.
Yeah, so now, I think there's a lot to making people feel safe on there. But now anybody from any company can reach out to a connected organization, I think, which it just doesn't make sense. So, but I could see it moving in the direction of Facebook Messenger, but in Slack, or if I could get away from email, I would. That's me, though. You old people are stuck in your ways, though.
I mean, I prefer texting, honestly. Well, I shouldn't say prefer. For attachments, I want emails because I want logs, but I'm on all Apple devices, so I can text off any device. So I kind of just like picking it up and leaving it. So
one of my goals for this year, I don't know if I'll get to it, but I've got my whole life system that runs all my stuff. I've been in the news for like a decade, everything from magazines to like movies. Like and I've taken all of it and had everything transcribed. Like if I'm in a podcast, most of my podcast audio has been transcribed. If I've been in a film, like all the lines have been transcribed. I literally want to take my Airtable and make a Chris bot, right? So you can come in and you can just interact with any part of my history in real time. I call it Christory because I'm weird like that. But I just think this is such a cool thing because, gosh, why should you have to die at this point? Airtable should be your last resting place.
I feel like you could easily have, with all the data on you could easily have like a deep fake made with like your actual like predictions of what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Using all of that.
Yeah.
And try to make it happen in Airtable.
Yeah.
Are these all transcribed?
I'd call mine deep throat fake. No, I don't transcribe your videos because, to be honest with you, I don't know do our stuff go to your channel? I only see like your regular videos. Do you release these?
Yeah, they do. They're
oh shoot, no, I haven't had those transcribed. Plus, I'm still waiting for Devin to become like a full member. Like he's only on camera sometimes. We'll see if we get him off mic.
Devin's been here since week 1.
Yeah, I know.
it's because it happens from 5 to 6. So what ends up happening is I end up doing things like this.
There he is.
Like making supper while this is going.
Look how healthy he is. Hold on. Can we get a zoom? This is some momentous stuff on off the record. So what?
So I don't actually know if it's in focus, but
it is. What are you making there? Talk to us about it.
3 kinds of peppers, Brussels sprouts, mushrooms, asparagus, a little bit of bacon bits, but the bacon's a bit smoky, so it has a bit of a smoke to the whole thing. Roast it in the oven and all good.
What else? No. That was just one meal. I saw 3 or 4 things. Don't turn off that camera.
We just have a little bit of leftover broccoli, and then we have some plain old rice. But I had some leftover chicken. I was trying to actually flip the video around is what I was trying to do. But I like roasting whole chickens when I make chicken. So I've got so then you have the whole thing, and then you make the soup later, which turns into something like this. This is totally off, not even off the record.
This is way off the record.
Off topic now.
Off the rails.
Now we got the soup.
Yeah, that's what we call the show. It's now off the rails. So it's off the record to off the rails. So to go back and show us your suit, show us your fridge, because one of my favorite subs in Reddit is fridge detect.
Oh, fridge is a mess. Fridge is a mess, but the soup is
the fridge in the freezer.
The soup is like basically like.
Is it in the freezer?
You did your meal prep.
Yeah, soup's in the freezer. Yeah. I don't. I could, but it'd be kind of annoying. The soup is like, this is totally off topic now, but yeah. So I roast chickens like pretty regularly, and then you save the bones, and then when I make the soup, it's like I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 chickens worth of bones. Sorry, my lighting's all over the place. 4 or 5, 6 chickens worth of bones, and then like a whole bag of carrots. Well, you do the stock for one day. For an entire day, so you let that boil. You put some herbs in, onion.
Crock pot? Are you crock potting this? Are you slow cooking it? Well, how's?
No, big soup pot, big stainless soup pot. Let that boil down for a day. Strain it again. Let it cool in the fridge for another 24 hours till the fat rises. You can scrape off the fat the next day. The stock is like Jello.
The Kim Kardashian mode.
And then I basically go with like. It's like a whole bag of carrots, probably 4 or 5 like yellow onions, 1 red onion, sometimes 2 turnips, sometimes 1, depends on the size. 2 whole like celery, like not sticks, but like bundles.
I'm afraid we need a second show, Ben. We need Devin's Kitchen.
And then what else to put? Oh, a bunch of potatoes.
What do you do for seasoning?
Some barley, well, it comes off the chicken itself sometimes, and then what I do is actually I don't really spice it a lot, a little salt and pepper, but what I do is actually take herbs.
Yeah, which kind?
Here's a good example
from the herb.
Yeah, it depends on what I have. This is a good example here. So the market here sells these dried herbs.
Wow, I knew
then what I do is I boil those up together. when on the second day, when I make a herb broth, so when it boils down, you need to add more water. I just pour in herb broth continually for like the hour or two.
Can we please get an Airtable with this recipe for next show?
I don't even know if it's a recipe. It's just like whatever's around.
Well, this has been recorded, so I will make it a recipe. If I have to create the Devon Life, the Devon's Kitchen Airtable, and market that thing, I will. Because you are like Emerald Live right now. You are on fire. Ben, am I wrong?
You're spot on. It's like Devil's Kitchen, but Devon's Kitchen.
Yeah,
I mean, Devon,
post,
that's really impressive.
Was this process.
Who taught you to do this? Because your method is tight. I'll be honest with you. As someone who grew up with home cooking, it's a tight method.
Well, Dad always made soup, but the funniest thing is I never tried it. I was always a picky eater. I was always afraid of it. And then third year university, we made a like 25, 30-pound turkey. The roommates and I has something to do. Well, it was just, we were like Thanksgiving, and let's do something wild, and it turned out to be a massive turkey. So then we made soup in like a slow cooker and a couple pots. Like we were didn't have a big enough pot to do it all, and then kind of did that a few times, and then now we're here.
Wow. I hope someone, and I know we have a massive audience who watches this, but I hope someone memes Devon's Kitchen, because I see a picture of Devon's face. Someone gets a screenshot and then put some roast turkeys and some of those witchy herbs right out of the bag, and then just like, don't you see something, Chuck? You feel it, don't you? Chuck, do you feel it? Okay.
That could be on the
I
phone.
do.
I was gonna say, I actually don't know. Maybe I'll hear what I'll do is
All right, we're gonna go off live here.
Yeah, we're gonna go off live. Yeah.
So thank you all for showing up for this week of Airtable Off the Rails. Secrets and lore. We'll be back next week for week 14, the 2-week anniversary of starting, or 14-week.
Here, what I'll do.
I'm doing it once a day. But thank you all for showing up, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.